Cognitive force and psychic practice. In subtle philosophical analysis, it can be said that all perception and assimilation is done with the help of Shakti force. Hence, the witnessing entity of this entire creation is nothing but Chitti Shakti, cognitive force or cognitive faculty. Purusha is called Chitti Shakti for two reasons. He is pure consciousness and he is omnitelepathic. Chitti Shakti has five qualities: Shuddha, absolutely pure; Ananta, infinite; Aparinami, unchangeable; Aprati, Shamkrama, non-extroversive; and Darshita, Vishaya, witness of the reflected object. The first quality of Chitti Shakti is absolute purity. An object is pure when it is not tainted by any impure object. If pure gold is mixed with another metal, it loses its purity and becomes gold alloy. The impurities can be removed from the gold alloy through a chemical process. The cognitive faculty is always free from impurities. However, when it comes under the influence of the three principles of Prakriti, it can no longer be called Chitti Shakti, because it becomes a metamorphosis into one of the forces instrumental in causing this creation. Actually, every entity of this relative world is nothing but the cognitive faculty, which has apparently been tainted by the three forces of Prakriti. The cognitive faculty is at its purest when it is not under the influence of any of the three principles. Hence it can be said that the cognitive faculty by itself is ever pure. To transform this universe, which is only a metamorphosed form of Chitti Shakti, into pure cognition, a special scientific process is required. This scientific process is called Dharma Sadhana. The process of Dharma Sadhana leads to transformation of plurality into singularity. It takes one to the exalted position of the cognitive faculty far above the domain of the relative principles. The second quality of Chitti Shakti is its infinitude, Ananta. Here Ananta does not mean an object which has no finitude or end. It means an entity which has no witness. The supreme entity can never come within the periphery of the mind, for he has no witness. An entity which has no end, however, can come within the periphery of mind. The word Ananta is only a mundane term, unable to convey any real conceptual understanding of Chitti Shakti. If ever the mind does attempt to fathom the magnitude of Chitti Shakti, it totally loses itself. The mind can only think of that which is finite, or that which is not finite. The cognitive faculty cannot be called infinite in the normal sense of the term, because it can never come within the scope of the mind. But we can call the expressed macrocosm universe infinite because, though very vast, it comes within the scope of psychic subjectivization. Ananta is infinite in the sense of being opposite to anta, finite. The infinitude of Chitti Shakti is not the same as the infinitude generally understood by the term Ananta. The infinitude of Chitti Shakti is beyond the scope of psychic comprehension. Chitti Shakti is not witnessed by any finite object, but is the witness of all. None of those objects which Chitti Shakti witnesses can be called a final object. The creative flow does not have any terminating point. Hence Chitti Shakti's witnessship is endless. Objects are composed of inferences, tanmatras, and bound by demarcations, thus have particular names and forms. But the cognitive force is neither composed of inferences nor bound by demarcation, and is thus nirvishesh, having neither name nor form. An object is recognized and distinguished from another object by the inferences radiated from it. No two objects radiate the same inferences, hence the speciality of an object is easily perceived by human beings. Mundane objects are called tanmatradhara because they invariably radiate tanmatras. From the form tanmatras we can determine the identity of objects, but we cannot determine their smallness or vastness. The factor which permits us to determine the size of objects is called vyavadi in Sanskrit. Vyavadi means form or dimension. Inferences are perceived through the indriyas, whereas the idea about the existential smallness or existential vastness of an object is formed by prana, vital energy. Shiti Shakti is devoid of Tanmatra Dhara and Vyavadi, and is thus called Nirvishesh. That which is Nirvishesha is infinite, thus the cognitive faculty is not only absolutely pure but also absolutely infinite. Third quality of Shiti Shakti is aparinamitva, or immutability. Aparinami, aparinami means that which undergoes no metamorphosis. Nothing is static in its universe. Every created object constantly undergoes some kind of change. These changes are caused by the vibrations emanating from Gunakshobha, mutual conversion of principles, Svarupa Parinama, homomorphic evolution, and Sadrisha Parinama, heteromorphic evolution. The change of place of an object is called gate, or motivity, and the mental measurement of this motivity is called kala, or time. Motivity is the cause of spatial and temporal change within the periphery of object entities. This change becomes the cause of subsequent change. The sequential order of cause and effect which operates within the cycle of creation does not occur within the original stance of the cognitive faculty. It only occurs when the cognitive faculty comes under the influence of Prakriti. Due to Prakriti's influence, various mutable entities originate from the body of the cognitive faculty. The human body undergoes a continuous metamorphosis from infancy to adolescence, from adolescence to middle age, and from middle age to old age. At a certain stage in this process of metamorphosis, death occurs, but even death is not final. After death, the five fundamental factors of which the physical body is composed undergo further metamorphosis. The only entity that undergoes no metamorphosis is the cognitive faculty. He is the immutable one. When an object returns to its original cause in the process of metamorphosis, it is called nasha, annihilation. Nasha is not total destruction, rather it is the opposite. It is the stage in which an entity returns to its original source of life. In the flow of pratisanshara, entities attain human frames, and then by virtue of sadhana return to the supreme macrocosmic stance. When a microcosm is not required to return within the scope of the law of causation after becoming established in its original stance, it is called pranasha. This pranasha, or total merger in the supreme cause, is called moksha, or salvation. There are no spatial, temporal, or personal differentiations within the cognitive faculty, hence it cannot be metamorphosed in any way due to time, space, or individuality. He is the immutable one, the impersonal one. The fourth quality of the cognitive faculty is apratishmkrama. Apratishmkrama. The word samkrama literally means extraversive movement. As there is no spatial difference in the cognitive faculty, there is no differentiation between internal and external. Thus, there is no question of him moving extraversially or being polluted by any external infection. He is apratisamkrama, the one who moves internally. The fifth quality of the cognitive faculty is darshita vishayitva. The cognitive faculty does not depend upon sense perception for the acquisition of knowledge. He possesses absolute knowledge about all entities, being infinite. He does not require indriyas, and being omniscient he does not need to perceive inferences. The inner essence of each object is embedded in the cognitive faculty, no matter what inferences it radiates. With the help of Mahatattva or Bodhitattva, Aham Tattva and Chitta, the cognitive faculty automatically possesses knowledge about all objects and events as the subjective counterpart of mind. These Bodhisattva, sometimes in the form of Aham Tattva, Chitta, or the five fundamental factors, remain an object of knowledge of the cognitive faculty. The unit cognitive plate sees whatever the mind of Saguna Brahma reflects on it. Hence the cognitive faculty is called Darshita Vishaya, witness of reflected object. The cognitive faculty can in no way be compared to an object as it is understood in the ordinary sense. Ego arises in the human mind when Bodhisattva is misconceived as cognitive faculty, Actually, the cognitive faculty is not an object of Bodhisattva, rather Bodhisattva is a form of the cognitive faculty, qualified due to the influence of Prakriti. Through psychospiritual practice, human beings realize that the supreme cognitive faculty, the unit cognitive faculty, and the unit existential I are not the same. Unit cognitive force, or unit consciousness, or Atman, is the reflecting plate of the existential I. When people develop this awareness through psychospiritual practice, it is called Mukhya Aklishta Vritti. Mukhya means predominant or primary. Aklishta Vritti means the propensity that is non-painful. When people realize this by studying scriptures or by hearing about it from intuitionally developed people, it is called Gauna Aklishta Vritti. Gauna means secondary. The knowledge of the differentiation between Atman, unit cognitive faculty, and Bodhisattva existential I, which results from the Mukhya Aklishta Vritti, is called Viveka Khyati. Viveka means discrimination, Khyati means ensconcement, or Vishayakya Samapati. Vishayakya means microcosmic object, Samapati means ultimate dissolution. When Viveka Khyati or Vishayakya Samapati becomes permanent, it is called Dharma Mega Samadhi. To attain permanent Viveka Khyati, Vairagya, spirit of total surrender, and Abhyasa, continuous practice are indispensable. The meaning of Vairagya is not to color the mind with the color of finite objects, but to develop an intense longing for the supreme spirituality. The meaning of Abhyasa is to regularly continue the same spiritual psychic practice. The minds of non-sadhakas are extremely restless. There are changes in their thought waves at every moment. There are numerous curvatures in the waves of their citas. Through abhyasa, through prolonged and meticulous practice, one strives to make the citta flow with a particular wavelength permanently. When one succeeds in this endeavor, all the flows of the universe merge in one psychic flow, and one attains sampragya samadhi. Following that, when one's flow is suspended in the vast cognitive flow, one attains asampragya or nirvikalpa samadhi. This sort of spiritual practice is mostly performed by Chitta. Chitta is born out of the three fundamental principles. The influence of the sentient principle on the cognitive faculty produces Bodhitattva or Mahatattva, existential I. The influence of the meditative principle on Bodhitattva produces Aham Tattva or I do feeling, and the influence of the static principle on Aham Tattva produces Chitta, the done I feeling. So in Chitta, all three principal gunas have their respective influences. Through abhyasa or repeated practice, the static Chitta is converted into the meditative Chitta into the sentient Chitta, and the sentient Chitta into cognitive faculty. Sattvaya granam vidatraisa svapna maridesha prasvapanam tu masuturiam trishu santatam. According to the degree of its psychic concentration, the human mind experiences five states: kshipta, mad; murha, blindly attached; vikshipta, scattered; ekagra, concentrated; and nirodha, suspended. Each of these states can lead to a particular type of samadhi, absorption of mind. In the first state, due to the preponderance of vrittis such as anger, the mind is withdrawn from all objects and temporarily concentrated one object. Have you ever experienced a quarrel with anyone in your life? In spite of your repeated attempts to calm yourself, your mind persists in thinking about the person you were quarreling with. In the second state, murha, a similar thing happens. The mind becomes so attached to something that it repeatedly thinks about it. A person who is greedy for money becomes totally preoccupied with the thought of making money. A person who hankers after name and fame continues harbors thoughts about becoming famous. In the first and second states, the mind becomes so infatuated with its crude objects that ultimately it becomes converted into matter. It follows the path of negative pratisanshara. Most of the time the human mind is totally scattered. Sometimes it calms down, sometimes it becomes absorbed in something, but mostly it jumps uncontrollably from thought to thought. The restless mind, which begins the process of sadhana, can be calmed down through regular practice. Ultimately, a state is reached when the mind flows undisturbed in one direction. This state is called ekagra bhumi, state of concentration. As one progresses, one eventually attains the state of nirodha or suspension of mind. One must reach the state of mental concentration, ekagra, before attaining samadhi. Samadhi which is attained in any of the first three states of mind is not real samadhi, but jhana samadhi, the samadhi which occurs when the mind is converted into its crude object. In jhana samadhi, the sentient chitta is gradually transformed into meditative chitta and the meditative chitta into the static chitta. Eventually, the whole mind is converted into matter. Most people are well acquainted with the fourth state of mind, ekagra. In this state, the human mind sometimes becomes exalted with divine sweetness, and sometimes becomes debased as an infernal creature. Sometimes it keeps company with good people and takes a resolve never to tell lies, accept bribes, get intoxicated or become characterless. And sometimes it thinks that honesty and virtue are sheer folly, for happiness lies in falsehood, taking bribes, stealing, promiscuity, and the like. The mind is continuously tossed between good and bad. But when the practice of sadhana inspires one to accept Shreya, path of benevolence, as one's ideology, one attains the true state of ekagra bhumi. In this state, waves upon waves of Chitta emerge. Shantaritau tulya pratyayau Shittasya ka kirata parinama. Every newcomer to the path of sadhana suffers from a lack of concentration of mind. After repeating the Ishta mantra a couple of times, hundreds of undesirable thoughts flood the mind. The newcomer thinks, I am unable to attain the one on whom I meditate, and instead am pestered by those objects I do not want. The hand counts the beads, the lips mutter the names of the Ishta, but the mind roams in the filth of hell. When all the undesirable waves are removed from the mind, one blissful wave begins to flow, and the sadhaka attains the state of ekagra bhumi. Chitta can be concentrated on anything, on crude matter or on subtle idea. It may flow towards the Supreme One, kevalam, or it may move towards the mundane world. Hence it is said that the mind is like a river which can flow in both directions. Chitta nadi ubhyatata pravahini. When the mind flows towards the Supreme One, it is called kalyanavaha, flowing towards benevolence. And when it runs towards matter, it is called papavaha, flowing towards malevolence. When the kalyanavaha stance of Chitta becomes permanent, it is called savikalpa samadhi, state of determinate absorption. This savikalpa or sampragyata samadhi, philosophically sampragyata is the correct term, is also characterized by certain criteria. Realization of the Absolute. When spiritual aspirants acquire the self-knowledge, they realize the oneness of the Supreme Entity behind the apparent multiplicities of the world. This is the supreme truth. To realize this truth, one does not need to study books or listen to discourses. Requital of reactive momenta. After the attainment of Samadhi, all afflictions caused by defective cognition gradually disappear. Loosening of the bondage of reaction. Every living entity is under the bondage of its reaction. Even after attaining Savikalpa Samadhi, one continues to perform actions, but does not acquire the reactions of those actions. At this stage, the underlying spirit is as follows. Kamato kamato vapiyat karomi shubha shubham tat sarvam tayi sanyastam tat prajakta karomyaham. Whatever I do, good or bad, with desire or without desire, I offer unto you. 4. Movement towards the undifferentiated state of cognition. This state is called sampragyata samadhi because real knowledge or self-knowledge is fully expressed. It has already been said that once affliction, klesha, begins to lessen following the attainment of savikalpa samadhi, there are 5 types of klesha, which are dependent on various psychic propensities, vrittis, especially the propensity of defective cognition. The propensities themselves are of 2 types, klishta, painful, and aklishta, non-painful. Those vrittis which are helpful for spiritual progress are called aklishta. The remainder are klishta. The 5 broad categories of klishta are pramana, proof, viparyaya, defective cognition, vikalpa, variability, nidra, sleep, and smriti, memory. Following the attainment of sampragyata samadhi, these psychic propensities cease to exert a painful influence.